What's up, everybody? It's JT Sports back to you guys with another video. In this video, I'm going to be doing my NFL post draft power rankings. And really, this is just the title of the videos. I won't call them my post draft power rankings. Really, it's just my off season or end of off season power rankings basically. Because look, basically all these teams are done. They're done with the draft. They're done really signing key free agents. At least it's a couple of free agents that are out there that could make an impact. But most of the teams are done signing key impact free agents, basically. So now basically most of the teams have their rosters. They're going to pick some guys up from the rookie mini camp, add them to compete. Then they had training camp. Then they're going to have to cut down the roster, trim down the roster to whatnot to 53 guys. And then I'm also have my preseason power rankings before the NFL regular season starts, but I just need a solid foundation to rank these teams before I do my preseason power rankings, which is going to come out in a few months. And basically, it's hard to do these because we don't really know what these teams are looking like on the field because you can't always go by how a team looks like on paper. At the end of the day, it comes down to coaching or whatnot, the coaching staff, the offensive coordinator and whatnot, and some teams might actually surprise or whatnot. But overall, I think my power rankings are solid. I'm not going to brag and say that they are the best. I do believe that I have a couple of teams that I misplaced on here. But I mean, I think it's better than the one that they did on NFL.com because they had the New York Giants ahead of the Washington Redskins, and the Washington Redskins are miles ahead of the New York Giants. So let's get into it. Make sure to like the video and subscribe for NFL videos daily, and also make sure to hit the notification icon so you never miss a video. So at number 32, I had the Miami Dolphins. The highlight of the offseason was when they traded for Josh Rosen. They got him from the Arizona Cardinals. That basically was the highlight of their offseason. I'm expecting him to start over Ryan Fitzpatrick. They are in tank mode, and the roster looks like it's in tank mode. The offensive line, I had a question about the offensive line coming in. The wide receiver position is meh. A lot of inconsistency there. Then on the defense side of the ball, I still felt they should have went with another corner to pair on the other side of the guy who they Xavier Howard. I think they could have gotten another guy. Minka Fitzpatrick is a good slot corner. I don't know if they're going to end up trying him out. At number 2, but Brian Flores, man, has his work cut out for him. At number 31, I had the Arizona Cardinals. Now, the Arizona Cardinals, they drafted a lot of talented guys on the offensive and defense side of the ball, but these guys are rookies. And let's be honest, when you draft a bunch of rookies, not all of these guys are going to have immediate impacts. Some of them might not even be good at all. Only a handful of guys might actually be able to contribute right away. Andy Isabella, Kyler Murray, guys like that. But overall, I don't think you can rank a team that has just a bunch of young players on the offensive side of the ball ahead higher than the 30s, to be honest. Now, Cliff Kingsbury, I do think his offense is going to have a lot of success because most of these first year college coaches in the NFL, when they bring their offenses from college to the NFL, normally have first year success. Chip Kelly was a good example of that. When he first his first year coaching the Philadelphia Eagles, I believe his offense was top 5 in the NFL that year. So the Arizona Cardinals, man, their offense is going to be good, but I just don't think they have the talent to win games, at least to me right now. Now at number 30, I had the New York Giants, man. They drafted Daniel Jones. That basically has been the only thing that people notice about the draft class. But they do have some players I like in Julian Love and DeAndre Baker. But the New York Giants are a worse football team or a more worse football team than what they were before the start of the offseason. They got rid of Olivier Vernon, which is a little bit of a loss, but I wouldn't chalk it off a huge loss as losing Odell Beckham. Odell Beckham to me is probably the only player, maybe the only player in NFL history to actually have a bigger impact on his team than the quarterback. And that's a huge loss. So at number 29, I have the Cincinnati Bengals. Cincinnati Bengals have a solid secondary, but they have holes at that linebacker position. I also want to see some more out of Andy Dalton. So they have some holes on that defensive side of the ball. At number 28, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have holes on the defensive side of the ball as well. They drafted a lot of young guys on the defense. I believe they went defense for most of the draft, only 2 picks, or I think it was 2 picks. that were offensive players, but they went heavy on the defensive side of the ball. But these are rookie guys, so I don't think these guys are going to come in. All of those guys who they draft are going to come in and change Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I don't think their defense is going to go from one of the worst in the NFL to a top 10. I think they go from 20. I think they go from, bottom of the NFL to the 20s, early 20s. Maybe they end up capping off at the 18th ranked defense or something like that. So they have holes there. The offensive line is pretty solid. I need to see more out of that running back position because that running back position is just a mess. I don't know about Ronald Jones. I don't know about the other guy, Peyton Barber, also. So just a lot of holes. Also, they also lost Adam Humphries. Now I know their their wide receiver core had Chris Godwin, who's going to have a breakout year, Mike Evans, but Adam Humphries is a loss. No matter how you chop it up, this guy made a lot of big plays for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. At number 27 had the Oakland Raiders. The Oakland Raiders got Antonio Brown, Vontaze Burfict, Brandon Marshall, a guy who hasn't been the same since 2015 with the Denver Broncos or 2016, which was to me his best year. I don't know about the Oakland Raiders. They still have a lot of holes in their secondary. Like the Arizona Cardinals, they drafted a lot of young guys on the defense side of the ball, but how many of those young players who they drafted are actually going to have an impact? I can't put a team really, really high when I'm relying on rookies to produce. Now, I'm not saying the rookies aren't good. I'm just saying I don't really trust rookies, and I really can't put a team that has a bunch of rookies and a bunch of inexperienced players on the defensive side of the ball. Mainly when it comes to that pass rushing unit, because they only had 13 sacks last season. But maybe as I see more out of the Oakland Raiders this offseason, they'll be higher when I do my preseason power rankings. At number 26, I had the Washington Redskins. Washington Redskins have a pretty solid defense. They signed Landon Collins. Josh Norman is a pretty solid corner, middle of the pack corner. He's a solid starter, but I don't know about that wide receiver position, man. They let go of Jamison Crowder. They let him go to the New York Jets. They still have, believe it or not, they have Josh Doctson on the roster. Even though they declined his fifth-year option, he didn't really have a lot of production that they wanted out of him, and he needs to have a big season to prove himself. And I don't really know how I feel about that. Also, the quarterback position, I'm expecting Dwayne Haskins to be the starter, but I still don't know about that as well. So I have the Washington Redskins at number 26 due to those questions, mainly at the wide receiver position. At number 25, I have the Carolina Panthers. Carolina Panthers secondary, I think that's a big hole. Other than Action Jackson, they have a big problem with that secondary. Eric Reed, I mean, he's a okay starter, but I mean, other than him and Dante Jackson, a lot of holes on that Carolina Panthers secondary that I need to find answers for before I can rank them higher. Number 24, I had the Denver Broncos. The Denver Broncos, man, I didn't see more out of that defense other than just Chris Harris and Bradley Chubb and Von Miller. A lot of those guys on that defensive side of the ball, like Derek Wolfe, really need to step up. Derek Wolfe, man, had a really, really terrible season stats-wise. This guy only had 1.5 sacks last season, so I need to see a lot more out of the Denver defense. The Denver offense, the wide receiver position is pretty set there. The offensive line is improved, and they have Joe Flacco at quarterback. So mainly, I just need to see more out of the Denver Broncos defense when it comes to their holes. Like at the linebacker position, they have holes there. I just need to see more, man. So now that caps out the first half, or the first third of my power rankings. Now I have 23 through 15. So at number 23, I had the Buffalo Bills. The Buffalo Bills are really, really improved. I think they had one of the best free agencies, one of the best off seasons out of most of the teams on this list. Ed Oliver was a big addition to that defense. He's going to be replacing Kyle Williams, who retired. That offensive line, man, the Buffalo Bills really improved that offensive line. They also went out and got a couple of receivers, Cole Beasley and John Brown, but I don't think neither of those guys are number one wide receivers. But the Buffalo Bills, their philosophy on offense is to spread the ball around. So I just want to see a little bit more of how that wide receiver position is looking before I can rank them higher than where they are now. At number 22, I had the Tennessee Titans. Now, the Tennessee Titans, to me, is that team that's just stuck in the hump, man. They just can't get over the hump. Now, Tennessee Titans, man, I don't know how you could rank this roster, if it's a playoff caliber roster or is it an outside playoff contender that should be competing for a playoff spot. I don't really know, so I still need to go back. I need to see more out of the Tennessee Titans. They drafted AJ Brown. They also signed Adam Humphries in free agency. They also do have Corey Davis, who had a pretty solid season last year. But I mean, I just need to see a little bit more of the Tennessee Titans offense as a whole before I can rank them higher. The offense wasn't bad, but I mean, they just had a rushing attack, man. So I need to see a lot more. Also, can Marcus Mariota actually stay healthy? And also on the defense side of the ball, they're pretty set there, but I feel like at that linebacker position, well, that pass rush position, I need to see more out of that pass rush position before I can rank them higher than number 22. And I do believe that they will be competitive in the AFC South. I do think that they can compete in that AFC South, but I do think that as of right now, they are the worst team in the AFC South. And all the other teams have better rosters. But the Tennessee Titans, if they can get some more consistency out of that pass rushing units and actually find some consistent pass rushers other than rotating guys in, then I'll rank them higher. So when I do my preseason power rankings, after I get done watching all the training camp highlights and clips and stuff like that, and see a little bit of the joint practices and a little bit of the preseason games, then I'll see if I can rank them a little bit higher, which they should. I just need to see a lot more before I can rank them higher than 22. So at number 21, I had the Detroit Lions, another team that had a very good offseason, very good draft, led to TJ Hawkinson. Then in the free agency, they picked up Jesse James, Trey Flowers, who was probably one of the best free agents in this class, Justin Coleman, who was the best nickel corner in the NFL last year. So the Detroit Lions had them at number 21. At the wide receiver position, I need to see more out of them too. They only had Galloway, who was probably the best wide receiver on the roster. He is a beast, but I just need to see a lot more out of that wide receiver position. So I'm going to re-rank them, probably be a lot higher after I do my preseason power rankings. But for right now, I had them at number 21. And number 20, I had the New York Jets, man. The New York Jets, another team that improved a lot over free agency. They signed Le'Veon Bell. They did draft Quentin Williams. They do have Jacob Polite, who was another player who they drafted in this past year's draft, who was a first-round talent, but his draft stock fell due to poor pre-draft interviews. So their defense is pretty much set, man. Leonard Williams, Quentin Williams, Jacob Polite. Then you have Jamal Adams. So that defense is going to be pretty good, man. And at number 19, I had the Jacksonville Jaguars. I want to rank them higher, but I just need to see a little bit more out of the wide receiver position from them as well, because they didn't really draft a lot of. They didn't really. They're getting Marquise Lee back. Okay, they're getting him back. They had D.D. Westbrook. They do have Cleveland Cole. It's just a lot of inconsistency. So for me to rank the Jacksonville Jaguars higher than where they are now, I need to see those wide receivers actually have some development when training camp and mini camp comes around, and when I do my preseason power rankings, I think they will be a lot higher, but I just need to see development out of that wide receiver group. At number 18, I had the Green Bay Packers. They went crazy in free agency, man. They signed a lot of good edge rushers. That defense should be very good this year. I think they won't be a top 10 defense, but I think they will be solid. I think they'll probably be around 11th or 12th. But I do think the Green Bay Packers, man, that offensive line has been a question. Can they keep Aaron Rodgers protected? And also that wide receiver group. They lost Randall Cobb. He went to the Dallas Cowboys. So now they only have Devontae Adams, who is really the only wide receiver that I know on the roster. That wide receiver group, man, is a big question for the Green Bay Packers. And that's going to be a big key if the Green Bay Packers want to have some success, is actually find some consistency at that wide receiver position, because pretty much Devontae Adams received a lot of targets from Aaron Rodgers last year. So I need to see some more out of that wide receiver group. At number 17, the Baltimore Ravens. A lot of these teams, man, wide receiver is something that I need to see. The Baltimore Ravens, they have Willie Snead. They drafted Hollywood Brown in the NFL draft. But that's the only reason why I had him at number 17, is because I need to see more out of that wide receiver position, even though they're going to be running the ball a lot. And even though they're going to have a run heavier attack, a run heavy offense, you still have to win games by throwing the ball. What you going to do when it's 45 seconds on the clock and Lamar Jackson has to have a 70-yard touchdown drive? What you going to do? You going to run the ball to win the game? You won't be able to do that. So I need to see more out of the Baltimore Ravens wide receiver group. And Pat, I need to see some improvement out of Lamar Jackson as a whole. But overall, I think the Baltimore Ravens are pretty solid. I know they took a few losses on the defense side of the ball. They lost CJ Mosley, but they have a guy who I feel is I'm very confident in. I think his name is CJ something. I can't remember his last name. Very hard to pronounce, but that dude is a beast. I believe he had over 6.5 sacks this past year. That dude is a monster. At number 16, I have the Minnesota Vikings. Minnesota Vikings, they drafted some offensive linemen. They drafted a tight end. Don't know about the future of Kyle Rudolph after this year, but that offensive line, I need to see improvement out of that department before I can rate them higher. And at number 15, the Seattle Seahawks. I don't know the stats of Doug Baldwin. They do have Tyler Lockett. So if Doug Baldwin retires, then they have Tyler Lockett. They do have DK Metcalf. They also have some more wide receivers who they drafted. But you guys know, I've said this so many times. I don't feel confident ranking teams high on my power rankings when I'm relying on rookies to contribute at key spots, you know. And I know the Seattle Seahawks run the ball a lot, but I mean Russell Wilson, he's still going to have some guys, some reliable guys who can throw to on third downs or whatnot. And he's going to have some success through the air with these wide receivers. And I just don't know. I just haven't seen a lot of these wide receivers that can actually show me that I can be confident in that group going forward if Doug Baldwin indeed decides to retire. So that is 23 through 15. Now I'm doing 14 through 6. So at number 14, I have the Houston Texans. The Houston Texans lost Kareem Jackson. That's a big blow to that secondary, and they lost Tyrann Mathieu. So that secondary, it already wasn't really that good, and now it got even worse. The offensive line improved though, but that defense, that secondary, just like the Carolina Panthers, man, they have holes there. They do have they do have one guy, the rookie. He was a rookie last year. Came out of the University of Stanford. He had a pretty good year last year. He's probably going to have an even better year this season. But that secondary, man, a lot of holes on that secondary, a lot of questions to be filled. So I'm gonna have to see more out of them. At number 13, I had the Pittsburgh Steelers. I know we lost Antonio Brown. I'm not even gonna talk about us losing Le'Veon because we already been over him. We already have a successor in James Conner, but that wide receiver group is another question mark for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Even though I do have confidence that James Washington and Deontay Thompson and guys like Ryan Switzer will be able to contribute, but it's going to be hard to replace a guy like Antonio Brown, the best wide receiver in the NFL, one of the best wide receivers of this decade. It's going to be hard to replace a guy like that. I know we're going to have Juju, but that number 2 wide receiver position, that slot wide receiver position, is going to be a big question mark for me. But the defense did get better. They did get Steven Nelson, the cornerback from the Kansas City Chiefs. So I think he will be the number 2 corner alongside of Artie Burns. That defense is very good. They picked up Devin Bush, who they traded up with the Denver Broncos for the 10th overall pick to select him in the NFL draft. And they still have a very good offensive line. Pro Football Focus ranked the Pittsburgh Steelers as having the number 1 offensive line in all of football last year. So I think at number 13, maybe some people would disagree with that, but I think this is a pretty solid spot for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Another questionable spot that most people probably going to disagree with is the Atlanta Falcons at number 12. But that offensive line, man, very, very good. They improved that offensive line a lot. That offensive line, I think, is going to be a top 10 unit in the NFL. Not only that, but they're going to have a lot of guys coming back from injury. Keanu O'Neal, Deion Jones. Keanu O'Neal actually missed the whole entire season last year. Deion Jones missed a handful of games last year. So that defense is now reloaded. They're fully healthy now. They got even better now on the offense side of the ball now. And I think maybe it was good that the Atlanta Falcons, actually didn't have that good of a season because now they already had talent. They're getting that talent back. That talent didn't play last year because of injuries. Now they're back. And plus, now they got even better because they were able to get some high quality guys in the NFL draft. Then the Atlanta Falcons are looking pretty good going into training camp or whatnot, or mini camp. And I expect the Atlanta Falcons to have a very good year this year. I have high expectations for the Atlanta Falcons. At number 11, I had the San Francisco 49ers. Other than the Cleveland Browns, San Francisco 49ers made a lot of moves, man. They signed Jason Verrett, cornerback, formerly played for the LA Chargers. Then they picked up Quan Alexander, who is coming off of a ACL injury, I believe. And he's one of the best linebackers in the game. The San Francisco 49ers, man, very improved, selected Nick Bosa. So now they have one of the best pass rushing units. Pair him up with D Ford. Then you have Solomon Thomas and D Forest Buckner. That defense, man, I'm expecting that defense to be a very good unit this year in the NFL. And I had them at number 11 because when you look at this roster is very, very, very talented. Now, the wide receiver position, they also are another team who I need to see a lot more of. Now, they do have a couple of guys. Deontay Pettis had a pretty good year. Marquise Goodwin, he's going to have another solid year, but neither one of those guys are number one wide receiver, in my opinion. Marquise Goodwin will probably be the number one wide receiver, but I think he's at best a number two wide receiver. And also, they have guys like Jalen Hurd, and they also drafted some more wide receivers. I just need to see a lot more out of that wide receiver position. I think it'll be pretty solid, and they're getting Jimmy Garoppolo back. Now we're getting into the top 10. Number 10, I had the Indianapolis Colts, man. The Indianapolis Colts had a very good draft. Their defense, it wasn't terrible. It was pretty much middle of the pack, led by Darius Leonard, who was a defensive rookie of the year. I think that defense is very improved. They signed Justin Houston. Although he's old, I think he's going to have a big impact. I think he's a guy who can still get you about 6.5 sacks. So I think the Indianapolis Colts are improved. I think that defense is going to be very good as well. Also at the wide receiver position, man, Paris Campbell, I'm expecting that dude to ball out. They also picked up Devin Funchess. So now T.Y. Hilton is going to be the number one guy in that wide receiving core to be doing it all. Andrew Luck is actually going to have a lot more wide receivers, a lot more weapons to throw to, not to mention Eric Ebron. And at number 9, I don't care what anybody says, no way you can look at the Cleveland Browns roster and not have them in the top 10. They have a top 10 roster, one of the best rosters, top to bottom in the NFL. Pretty much the only holes at that linebacker position. They have pass rushers, Myles Garrett and Olivier Vernon. That secondary, Denzel Ward. They're going to have Greedy Williams. They're also going to have a couple of other guys. They're going to have Demarius Randall as well. So the offense, man, Baker Mayfield, he's going to be throwing to the best wide receiver duo in the NFL in Jarvis Landry and Odell Beckham. He also has Kareem Hunt, who's going to be back after that 9-game suspension. Then you're going to have Nick Chubb. Then you're going to have Duke Johnson, who is on the roster as well. At number 8, I had the Philadelphia Eagles. They had a pretty solid offseason. They drafted the guy from Washington State. That offensive line is already good. Now you already have a backup in case one of those guys goes down. Then the wide receiver position, man, J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, I really like him a lot. He's going to be an impact guy alongside Alshon Jeffrey. Then you have Deshaun Jackson, who, although he's old, is still one of the best deep threats in the NFL. At number 7, I had the Chicago Bears. Now the Chicago Bears, man, Riley Ridley is a very good pickup. So now that wide receiver core is solid. My biggest question for the Chicago Bears is how good is Mitchell Trubisky going to be? And Mitchell Trubisky, is he going to be an above average quarterback or is he going to be an average quarterback? If he's an above average quarterback, that offense is going to be top 5. If he's a below average quarterback or an average quarterback this year, I still think the Chicago Bears will be able to win games because of how innovative Matt Nagy is as an offensive play caller. But I just feel the Chicago Bears, man, a lot is riding on Mitchell Trubisky this year, but they're at number 7. And finally, capping off this part of the NFL post-draft power rankings, I had the Kansas City Chiefs at number 6. Don't know if Tyreek Hill is even going to play this year. They had Mecole Hardman. They drafted him. They lost some guys on the defense side of the ball. They got rid of D Ford, got rid of Justin Houston, but they picked up Frank Clark, who they traded for. And near the NFL draft is when that trade took place. So he's going to bolster that pass rushing core. I think that pass rushing core, even though they have 50 sacks, that defense still has a lot of holes. That secondary, they signed Tyrann Mathieu. They got the dude from Virginia who I'm high on, Thornhill. But that cornerback position is a big question mark for me. They lost Steven Nelson, who was their best cornerback last year. So I need to see some answers, some questions answered in the offseason when we go towards the mini camps and training camp and whatnot in preseason. Need to see those holes filled. And that caps off 14 through 6. Now we have the top 5. At number 5, I had the New Orleans Saints. New Orleans Saints, they basically had the same team from last year. They lost a couple of key guys. Most notably, they lost Max Unger. He retired. And then they picked up a center in the second round of the NFL draft. I think he's going to be able to start. I can't think of his name as of right now. The New Orleans Saints offense, man, they also picked up Jared Cook, who is going to block that offense. Now you got another weapon alongside Michael Thomas. Jared Cook, man, one of the best tight ends in the league, in my opinion, had a phenomenal season with the Oakland Raiders last season. So I think the New Orleans Saints are going to pick off where they left off last season. And also, before I move on, they did lose Mark Ingram, but they picked up Latavius Murray. I don't think he's going to have the same production as Mark Ingram, but I do think that Latavius Murray and Alvin Kamara duo is going to be pretty solid. At number 4, I had the Dallas Cowboys. Randall Cobb. They picked up Robert Quinn as well. They traded for him from Miami Dolphins. The Dallas Cowboys have a top 5 roster, and now all the pressure is on Dak Prescott. Can he win? Can he prove that he's not going to be a quarterback carried by talent, man? And if I'm the Dallas Cowboys, I'm not going to give Dak Prescott an extension till after this season. I want to see what Dak Prescott is going to be able to do with this talented roster. So at number 3, I had the LA Chargers. Probably have one of the best rosters in the AFC, top to bottom. The offensive line is solid. Phillip Rivers is a future Hall of Famer. Melvin Ingram is one of the better running backs in the NFL. Keenan Allen and Mike Williams, that's a pretty talented wide receiving core right there. And then also on the defensive side of the ball, Joey Bosa is fully healthy. He didn't play every single game last year. Now that he's going to be fully healthy, he should have at least 12.5 sacks, be a candidate for Defensive Player of the Year next year. Also have Melvin Ingram, who now looks to be elite pass rusher in the NFL. So the LA Chargers, man, solid team, one of the best teams. I think they probably are one of the most talented teams in all of football, and I think they are the best team talent-wise in the AFC. At number 2, I have the LA Rams. LA Rams, they didn't really lose a lot. They lost a lot of guys, 3 key starters. They lost then Ndamukong Suh, they let him go. I don't think they're gonna bring him back. Then they lost Mark Barron. Then they lost safety LaMarcus Joyner. So I think the LA Rams, they're going to be a little bit worse on defense this year. But overall, the offense, they're getting Cooper Kupp back. The offensive line is improved. The offensive line was already pretty solid last year, but they added some more guys that can come in and start and improve that offensive line and make it better than what it is. They also selected Darrell Henderson in the NFL draft. Him and Todd Gurley are going to be a good combo if Todd Gurley's knee is able to hold up. And also at number 1, we had the New England Patriots, man. The New England Patriots had an incredible draft. Yanni Kajus being my favorite pick. And also, let's not forget, Isaiah Williams. He didn't play last season. They took him in the first round of the previous year's NFL draft back in 2018. And also had one of the best, probably the best offensive line coach of all time in NFL history. So that offensive line is going to be very good. They have probably the deepest backfield in the NFL. Damian Harris. You got Rex Burkhead. You got James White. You got Sony Michel. So that backfield, man, although they lost Rob Gronkowski, that offense is improved, man. They also have N'Keal Harry, who they drafted. He's a monster. Then they picked up Demaryius Thomas. I think he's going to have a very good season. I think he's going to prove a lot of people wrong. And also, people forget, they also had Julian Edelman, who's pretty solid. But Josh Gordon, man, Adam Scheffler and Aaron Rappaport did say a few months ago that Josh Gordon should be able to play this season. He will be or should be back sometime during the NFL season for the New England Patriots. So the New England Patriots are the number 1 team, in my opinion, the Super Bowl defending champions. I think they're the best team in all of football right now. So let me know what you guys think about my power rankings down in the comment section down below. Let me know what teams were a little bit too high, what teams were too low. And also make sure to subscribe to the channel for more NFL videos, NFL content. And thanks for watching.